Hello, everyone. Welcome to Move More, Worry Less, episode 31. I'm your host, Paige Vesta, the founder and designer at 13 Fit Apparel. My guest today is Stevie Jones. She is the founder of Balanced by Stevie. She is a virtual CFO and business coach, and I've had the pleasure of working with her personally. On today's episode, we talk a little bit about business, a recent milestone she's hit that is really, really exciting. And then we dive into her personal story and experience with sexual assault. This episode gets pretty real, so I want to put out a trigger warning. I'm really proud of Stevie for being able to share her story. I know that by sharing it, it is helping other people and empowering others who have been through a similar situation. So with that said, let's dive into the episode. Stevie, I am so happy to have you here today, and I can't wait for our listeners to meet you. So before we get into whatever topics we're going to cover today, I would love it if you could introduce yourself, maybe give a little background, who you are, what you do, and then we'll go through your journey a little bit.
Paige, I love you. I'm so happy to know you. Thank you for having me. I am a virtual CFO to female business owners, which is how Paige and I actually initially met. She was part of a membership I had, and I was an accountant in the corporate world for several years, and then had my second child and just needed a little bit, like most women, needed a little bit more flexibility in my life, just needed to be able to show up at ball games, show up at, school plays and things like that. And so I started this business right before COVID hit, which is like now kind of crazy to think about. But I've been in it now, I guess, close to like 2.5 years, and I just love it. I help with all things business finance. So if someone needs QuickBooks set up for their business, or a business plan, or help with tax deductions, that's what I do.
And I can say from experience, Stevie is so good at what she does. We worked together for quite some time, and she helped me really get a lot of my shit together when it came to finances. And then since we've become friends, obviously, and here we are today. And I want to talk a little bit about your business. I want to talk a little bit about some more personal things.
Yeah, let's get into it.
So let's ease in and talk about business first.
Okay. Something I've been thinking about a lot recently is I've been learning about masculine and feminine energies, that each person has a feminine energy and a masculine energy.
Okay.
And I'm from small town Alabama. So this concept was brand new to me when I entered entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship, that is a word, right?
That's definitely the word.
So I joined this mastermind right when I started my business. And they were using these terms, feminine, masculine, chakra, and talking about all these different things that I'd never heard before. And so starting this business has really been a spiritual journey for me, which is very unexpected. But as I learned more about like feminine and masculine energies and how they apply to business, the most successful business owners are able to tap into each of those, right? So you have your feminine energy, which is very expressive, emotional, intuitive. That's where you have like powerful messaging that can come through on your social media or on the things that you write, like if you're a blogger or something. And your creativity, you're usually in your feminine when you're creating. But then you have the masculine things, which are things like the tactics, the strategy, the bookkeeping, the legal stuff, like all of this stuff, the scheduling, which I'm terrible at. So you have to have an aspect of each of those within your business in order for it to really be as successful as it can be. And I just think that's super interesting.
So, I mean, since you've learned that, how has that shifted your approach in business and helping your clients?
I'm sorry, you were breaking up. Can you ask that again?
Oh, excellent. So, through like your journey of building your business and like transitioning your business and pivoting or whatever, and then also helping other businesses, how have you applied this concept of masculine and feminine energy?
Recently, I have really been focusing on letting my feminine come through, because what I do is so masculine. Like I have to be in the spreadsheets. I have to be in the bookkeeping systems and the calculations. And so I know a lot of people don't like social media, but I actually really enjoy it because it's my creative outlet. And so I've been really trying to listen to my instincts and, show up with messaging that really resonates because I'm speaking from a super authentic place, which to me, that's a very feminine thing to do. That's in your feminine energy. Excuse me. So that's how I've really been able to try to balance my own business. And then with my clients, I feel like most of my clients are they're just so creative. Oh my God, I don't know how you guys do it. You are so freaking creative. And they just need the support and the confidence to continue to chase these big ideas that they have that are so good. But I mean, as you know, and I know, there's going to be an element of risk in every business because that's just the nature of starting your own business. But I think when you have someone that can come in and support you in a role where it makes you feel confident about the decisions that you're making because you have a business plan, because you have the math to back it up, you have the goals set out on paper. I think I've really seen them thrive with that. It just gives them more confidence.
Yeah. And just to make a note on your social media, what I really love about your social is that you have your pieces that are very, if you want to like categorize it in your masculine energy, that's very about finances and your business, but you've recently been posting things that are, like you said, really authentic to like what you believe in. And I just love that you're using your platform to share your voice and your experience. And I want to dive into your experience and then kind of bring it all full circle. But before we do that, recently you shared that this year was your first year making 6-figure profit. If that, am I correct? Yeah. And first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Enormous milestone. Can't wait till I get there. But let's talk about what that looked like for you. Because I think that a lot of times we see these moments and milestones for either, it doesn't even need to be an entrepreneur, but just like anybody in life, they post that something really amazing has happened, but to get there, it's not, I think we all know realistically and logically, it's not a smooth path, but it's really, really hard when you're seeing on social media and then you're doing the comparison game. You think that it's just like, oh, this person did X, Y, and Z, and now they've made 6 figures, but it's a journey. It's up and down, right? So maybe talk us through what that journey looked like for you and how you were able to achieve that milestone.
It started my first year, I generated a loss. And it wasn't a small loss. It was me really investing in myself, in the business. And I knew that it would generate a loss in the first year because I knew that I needed to make that initial investment. And that really was related to coaching. I'm a big believer in business coaching if you find the right one. And I've found some really great ones. And so I invested in a large business coaching program. And I'm so glad I did because the things that I took away from it were just incredible. Sorry, darn it. I have to turn my text message sound off.
This is real life. It's all right.
Real life. Yeah. So my husband, dang it, my husband. I generated a loss my first year. Second year, I essentially broke even. Year 2, I feel was the most difficult so far because I thought, okay, I invested a lot in my first year. Year 2, I'm going to knock it out of the park. And year 2 ended up being a lot of missteps for me, a lot of trying things that didn't work. But what I got from that is, okay, this didn't work. Why did it not work? And how can I change what I did to make it more successful in the future? And so year 2 was just a complete immersive learning experience, just trying things, failing. And I'm so glad I had those failures now looking back because it's allowed me to build what I have now. So I actually, I posted that on Instagram that I'm hitting 6-figure profit this year because I sat down and finally did my own business projections. with like all my clients that I have signed on and the programs that I'm running. And I was like, holy crap, holy shit, I'm going to hit 6 figures. And it was just this moment of you're working so hard to get there and then you don't really know you're there. And then I saw it on paper and I was like, is that right? I checked the math like 10 times. Like there's no way. I'm like, holy crap. And then I started paying myself regularly from the business. And I thought, this feels fucking fantastic, because there were so many months that I couldn't pay myself from the business. And I felt like, you have doubts. You're like, is this for me? Do I need to, like, is this going to work? I've posted videos crying because I'll do a launch and then like no one shows up or no one buys anything. And it's just, it really is all part of the process. And I think what we don't see enough, we're starting to see it now because people are starting to learn that people crave honesty, but the comparisonitis stuff, we see so many successes. We don't see enough of the path that it takes to get there. And it's interesting too, because I see people's finances, right? I work with other businesses and I know that people have invested in previous years in order to get where they are now, which is the posting of the 7-figure year, 6-figure year, stuff like that. So I want everyone to be aware that very rarely do you immediately start a business and start profiting like crazy. That's rare. Most of the time, it just takes time to get there. It just takes, the painstaking process of going through failures and investing money.
If you were to give one piece of advice for, again, it could be an entrepreneur or somebody in a position that they're not in control of what they make, but I guess in control of what they make, aka not employed by somebody else.
Got it.
So basically an entrepreneur, I guess. I don't know. What would your one piece of advice be for that person striving to get, that 6-figure profit in a timely manner? Because I think that sometimes it's really easy to have the dream of one day I'll make X amount of dollars. But yeah, I'm going off, but yeah,
no,
advice for somebody who wants to make money.
Yeah. Period. And there's all these strategies out there that, everyone has a different strategy that they recommend and you don't really know which one to follow. You don't want to, you just are so confused in the beginning. What really, really helped me is finding a community of other people who were going through the same thing and learning from them and have them learn from me and getting support, because it can feel very isolating when you are around people in your life who don't know what you're talking about. When you're talking about your business, they just cannot relate in any way, shape, or form, but it's a huge part of your life and you think about it a lot. And so, I encourage everyone to find some sort of community of other business owners who you can network with, you can talk to about things, about how you're feeling about your business. You can run ideas by each other. There earlier in my business, I would do these launches, which are freaking, I almost threw up before I did one. So when I say launch, that really just means, hey, I'm going to do this training within my Facebook group that's free. And at the end, I'm going to do a sales pitch that prompts people to join a program. I have quickly learned that is not my style. I don't do that anymore just because it made me feel like shit. But I was so worried, first of all, that people wouldn't show up. And so I had people just from that community that showed up just to support me. And that just gave me such comfort in the moment. And I was so touched by it. And so whether it be, a community that you start yourself, or mine was a business coaching program, like a group program, just find your people wherever you can. And that's really good. The strategy will come. It really will, because it's not a one size fits all type of thing. So you have to wait until you'll find your strategy. I can promise you that. But I think finding a group of people and then also being completely authentic to who you are. If you're offering something that doesn't align with you internally, it's going to come across that way to the people, to your consumers. And I've done that in the past. I've done, I've done these certain things that I thought I needed to do because it's part of a strategy, and I'm not doing that anymore. I'm only gonna offer things that I really feel moved by, that I really want to do, and I believe in. And I think as long as you're being authentic, you will find your people.
I love that so much. And that's one of the things that I love so much about you is just your authenticity. And I mean, I just believe the same thing. I mean, driving your business with purpose is really important, period. So I really appreciate that you are authentic and you've made shifts in your business to align with who you are and what you really believe in, instead of just putting a product out or a service out that just makes money, because I think it makes sense and people can feel that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I did a really controversial post recently, and I know you saw it, and I was interested just to see. I really didn't care if I lost followers. I knew I was going to, but I did lose followers. I think it was maybe around 20 or 25. And I just thought, you know what, that's for the best, because they our ethics do not align here. Not that you have to agree on everything in order to work together, but if they're that put off by me being my authentic self, then I'm not the person for them anyway.
Absolutely. And it's like not the number of followers, but the number of right followers, and everybody has the people that connect with them. So yeah. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit.
Yeah,
we're going to get into like vulnerability city.
Oh, my heart's starting racing a little bit. I'm like, let's do it. It's going to be like a therapy session today.
Yeah. Right. So remind me actually, I'll give you the floor in just a second. So a little while ago, and I'll let you be more specific on the timeline. Stevie made a post, and it was a beautiful photo of her. And it said "Me Too" on it, which caught my attention. And I read the caption and was completely blown away. And you had posted that you had wrote your story, and it was published in a book. So yeah. I got that book and I read it.
Oh my God. You're so sweet.
Yeah. Of course. I was like, hell yeah. So I don't want to give the details away. This is your story to tell. It's not mine. So I'm just going to give you the floor and allow you to talk about it in a way that feels good for you.
Thank you. I think it's funny. I heard someone say so I was a victim of sexual assault. And the more you talk about your past traumas, like each time you talk about it, it feels a little bit less hard to talk about it. So yeah, I've started doing therapy around it. Long story short, how this kind of reared its ugly head is basically COVID shut down the world. And what I didn't realize was happening was that I was using my everyday work. And also I had left my corporate job at this point, like very newly left my corporate job, but I was using work to take my mind, like really to just as a distraction to suppress like past traumas, like my past sexual assault. And when COVID kind of shut down everything and I walked away from my corporate job, I just started having all of these reactions to things that I didn't fully understand. I just thought, just things like, okay, this is very honest, but my husband would walk by me in the kitchen and slap me on the butt. And I would have to like physically stop myself from turning around and like punching him. And I thought, oh my God, there's something wrong, right? Like my reaction to that is not in line. So I actually started to think about the assault, which I never had done really in the past. I just suppressed it for so long. And I thought I'd gotten away with it like unscathed. I thought, somehow I'm just, compartmentalizing and it went away and I'm never going to think about it again. And then I started thinking about it a lot. And my husband actually helped me find a therapist here. So I started going to therapy to work through it. And it has been, anyone who does therapy knows that it's not easy. I thought therapy would feel, you see it on movies, you go in, you lay on a couch, you talk about your childhood, and then you walk away and you feel better. And therapy is very, very difficult. Therapy is really hard work. It's really hard work, and it does help tremendously. And I definitely encourage anyone who has a past trauma to seek out a therapist. But there are things that lie in your subconscious that you do not realize how much it's affecting you today. And so a lot of things from the night that I was assaulted are affecting me now as a 36-year-old, and my assault happened 15 years ago. So that's what's very confusing is I thought, why now? Why now am I all of a sudden feeling like, feel the trauma? And it's just, trauma has a weird way of just kind of lying dormant in your subconscious until something triggers it, and then you start feeling all the feelings. And it's been something that I felt I wanted to share, which is why I posted about it, because it's honestly like a selfish reason that I shared, because mainly I just wanted other people to be mad about it. And it sounds weird, right? But when you're sexually assaulted and adults know that it happened and nothing is done about it, you crave validation that, yeah, man, that was a really fucked up thing that happened to you and something should have been done about it, right? So I shared my story because I wanted other people to say, man, that's a messed up thing that happened. Like, that was wrong. Are you okay? Like, I'm sorry that happened to you. I really wanted to hear that. And it's just helped me move forward, and not everyone wants to share their story, nor should they, but I just felt really called to share about it. And so I shared about it. I wrote a chapter in a book about it. And it was therapeutic, and it's just been, oh God, things came out of it that I didn't expect to. So, in the book and in my story, there was someone that was with me there that entire night that this event happened to me. And I never thought I would speak to that person. This person had nothing to do with the bad things that happened. He was a friend that helped me deal with it that night, who was essentially my same age. So we were basically like two kids. And he actually reached out to me and just said, hey, I just want you to know that for the past 15 years, I've thought about that night at least once a month. And that was also so, I hated that he was dealing with guilt over, he thinking he should have done more to prevent what happened. And I know this may sound a little bit confusing if you haven't read the story, but I think I was able to actually relieve him of his guilt that he felt by saying, look, you did everything you could. We were young. We didn't know. We went to the only adult we trusted in the moment, and that person failed us. You did not do anything wrong. I wish you nothing but the best. And it was really nice to have that closure and to have that conversation.
Is it too difficult for me to ask you to share your story, or
no?
Okay.
No, I've written about it. So
I know you wrote about it, but I know talking can be,
yeah,
it's harder than writing something down, right?
It is.
So I don't want to push you to do or share anything that doesn't feel comfortable for you. But if it feels okay for you, I think that your story is really important.
Okay. So I was 20 years old, and I had gone off. I'm from a small town in Alabama, and I had gone off to college at the University of Alabama, loving it, having the time of my life. Went back to my hometown during the holiday. I honestly can't remember what time of year it was, if it was like Christmas or some other holiday, Thanksgiving, I don't know. But as you do when you're off at college, you go back home to see your family, celebrate holidays. And we all went to this local bar that was kind of the new and happening spot in my town. And everyone was there. It was so nice to see everybody. Old friends were there from high school. And I say this in my book, but I feel like no one can make you laugh completely like those people, and no one knows you in a way that those people know you. So it was just really nice to be back, especially when you've been in this new environment off at college and then you're back with your old friends. It just felt really nice, and I felt really happy to see them. And this is the part where I always kind of blush when I talk about it. But that night there was a boy there that I had a really big crush on. I can't remember what pseudonym I gave him in the book, so we'll call him John for the story. But there was a boy there that I had a really big crush on, and I was really happy, obviously, to see him. And he was the type of boy, let me just put it this way. He would change his Facebook status to like from single to, you know, in a relationship, and probably 5 or 6 different girls thought it was for them. You know what I mean? Like he was a ladies' man.
Yeah.
As most college boys are. And that night he was paying wonderful attention to me. I felt, you know, he was really just all about me that night. And I thought, man, okay, I've got his attention. Like, this is great. You know, you feel really good when your crush is paying attention to you. And so I had gone there. By the way, I just want to reiterate, I was 20. I was not of legal drinking age. And the reason we were able to get in and drink was because one of our friends' dad owned the bar. So, you know, we'll just leave it there. We'll leave that there. So I'd gone to the bar with my friends. They decided they were tired. They were ready to go home. Well, I, of course, did not want to go home because the boy that I liked was there, right? And he was paying attention to me. So I decided to stay back with him. And there were a couple of other friends that were guys that were still there as well. That was looking back, mistake, right? But I was young. I didn't think, well, you know, nothing ever enters your mind like something bad is going to happen until it does. So the night goes on and I am drinking, but I will say, stupidly, by the age of 20, I had experimented with alcohol before, and I was testing my limits at some points, but I kind of knew my limits. And I had only had, I mean, maybe 3 drinks. And when I say drinks, they're not liquor drinks, they were like beer. And so there may have been a shot taken at some point. I don't know. But before I knew it, after my friends left, I started getting, actually it goes completely blank in my mind. And so my friends leave, I'm hanging out with John, I'm having a great time. I'm fully there. I feel, you know, I'm not falling over. I'm not like, you know, sloppy. I'm just there having fun. And then it goes black in my memory. Everything's black. Nothing, don't remember anything. I remember a flash forward to, I'm on the floor of the bathroom in this bar and I'm getting sick. I'm throwing up. And John is in there with me and he's like trying to help me. And I look at him, I remember this so clearly. I looked up at him and he was so confused. He was looking at me with this look of, why are you so sick? Like, what happened all of a sudden? And I was confused as well because I felt like I had blacked out and then came to and I was throwing up in the bathroom, and then things go black again. And then this is the part that gets difficult. So for anyone listening, if you haven't already been triggered, this is a trigger warning here. The next time I wake up, I am in the upstairs room of the bar, laying on a couch, and there are 2 men in there with me. And one is touching me, has his hand down my pants, and he basically is taking my hand and stroking his penis with it. There's really no great way to say that. And then there was a man at my feet that was just watching. He was just watching and letting it happen. I could feel this happening. I had woken up, so to speak, but I couldn't move my body. It's like I was there just in my mind, but I was paralyzed in my body. And I could feel this man touching me, and there was a knock on the door, a bang on the door. And that is somehow what jolted me to be able to move. And so I sat up, and that's when I realized there was a second man in the room who was sitting at my feet. I sat up, and one of the men said, "We have to get out of here." So he zipped up his pants. They both left the room. I am in utter disbelief, confusion. I didn't really process what had just happened. It was just very It's a very weird feeling. It's a very weird feeling. You just feel almost like disassociated from the moment. You're just confused. You're just confused. So I walked downstairs to find John, who was sitting at the bar drinking a beer. Like he'd just been hanging out. And I went up to him and I basically said, there were two men just upstairs with me. And he said, are you fucking kidding me? And I just lost it. I just started crying my eyes out. I just fell to the floor. I just broke down. And after conversations with him, and I want to be clear, he had nothing to do with this. He was a young college dude that didn't know how to handle the situation right, nor did I. But that night when I was getting really sick, he knew the bar owner. And the way of him taking care of me, he was like, man, she's really sick. She needs to sleep it off for a few minutes. And I guess, he didn't want to leave the bar. So he had taken me upstairs into this room where he knew there was a couch. It was the room where the owner of the bar had his office, and there was a couch in there. And he laid me down on that couch and he shut the door behind him, thinking nobody's even going to know she's up here. It's fine. She'll be fine. And then I'll check on her in a little while. Thank God he came back and checked on me, because he was the banging on the door that had jolted me awake. If he hadn't, who knows what would have happened. But long story short, I'm in this bar. I'm having this emotional breakdown over what happened. He and I go to the owner of the bar and we say, this is what happened. And we give him the short of it. And he wouldn't even look me in the eye. The owner would not even look me in the eye. Decided that the best option was for us to go back to his house and stay the night. This sounds crazy. As I'm saying it now, it sounds crazy. As an adult looking back, it sounds crazy. In the moment, I was terrified. He was the only quote unquote adult, even though I was technically 20 years old. And I was afraid. It's crazy, Paige. Like I was afraid of getting in trouble for underage drinking. All these things that shouldn't matter in the moment kind of mattered a little bit. Like, I don't want to make a big deal about this. I don't want to get the owner, since my friend knows him, I don't want to get him in trouble for letting me in underage. These were all the things that were running through my mind about like why I shouldn't make them call the cops. And so I just went along with that person, and John and I and the bar owner and his son all went back to the bar owner's house that night and spent the night there and John just laid with me. Literally, I just remember him like being so supportive and just all night long, just comforting me until the morning where my friend could come and pick me up. And that, I did tell certain family members about what happened, and collectively we decided, it was already the next morning once I told them, collectively we decided not to report it, because honestly, I'll be completely honest with you, I had already gotten out of that town. I was out, I was in college, I was making a life for myself, and I was doing well. We did not want to jeopardize that for me. And we know, unfortunately, as women, that most of the time when you do report an incident, nothing is done about it. And so whether that was a mistake or not, that's the decision we made at the time, and we moved on. And when I tell you it bothered me for, we'll call it maybe a few days, a week or something, maybe it did bother me a little bit longer, but I just remember moving on, I'm leaving this behind me. I'm moving on, done. And then again, COVID hits, and here it comes out of nowhere. So
I hate to even say this, but it's because I can't even imagine what you feel, but like hearing you tell that, like I had a pit in my stomach the whole time. Like it's
disgusting.
Yeah. But I love that you have the courage to share that, because you know that you're not the only one who's gone through something like that. So then COVID hits, and now you have all of this time that you haven't had in, 15 years.
Mhm.
And your trauma came through. So I guess my question is, how did you realize it was trauma from that experience that was triggering you?
The reactions that I was having were related to sex mostly.
Okay.
And so that kind of made me think about it. Why am I having these weird reactions all of a sudden? And then it started slowly seeping in. I started thinking about that night. And it was like, why am I thinking about this? This was 15 years ago. Why is this coming up now? But and then I started seeing a therapist, and she said that happens a lot. You use other things in your life to distract you because you don't want to face working through your trauma. So you just push it down, and but it's still there in your subconscious. It's still there. It's always there. And so if you don't deal with it, if you don't work through it, then it can come through in crazy ways, very, very weird ways that you may not even know it's related to trauma in the beginning, kind of like why you're asking the question.
Yeah.
But I just knew that I was acting different. I knew I was acting different. And I've always been a believer in therapy. I've never really done it before, but I've always thought, man, I feel like that would be nice. So I did start therapy, and I have a wonderful therapist, and she helped me. We're working through it still.
Yeah.
We did this type of therapy called EMDR, which is very difficult because you basically have to take yourself back to the exact moment where you felt the most pain.
Oh.
And then you have to reprogram your thoughts around that moment so that they are not as traumatic anymore. And it helps, but it's very difficult, very difficult. And so I would just caution anyone who decides to try that. It does help, but it's hard. So now we're working on, there's a lot of other stuff too. We all have trauma, right? We all have trauma. And so we ended up talking about, other stuff from my childhood, and I have severe panic attacks, and we were able to we're working through why I have those. And so it ended up being like this really great journey of self-discovery and hopefully healing, but you see a therapist, right?
Yes. I'm a little bit on a pause right now just because I've been kind of overwhelmed with my schedule, but yeah.
Okay. I think that, it's always good to do therapy, but it's been, so I'm going through all of this while starting this business, and all of a sudden I had a platform, and I didn't know what, I feel like even if I have, I'm no influencer. I have, the amount of followers on Instagram, whatever, they don't even all see your posts, but I thought, I have a little bit of a platform here, and so I'm going to talk about this. And so I started I started opening up about it. And like I said, each time I talk about it out loud, it gets a little bit easier to say the words. And so to me, it feels healing. And that's why when you and I discussed, hey, do you want to talk about this? Do you not want to talk about this? I thought, yeah, let's do it, because it honestly kind of helps me.
Yeah.
And of course, if someone listening this resonates because they've been through something, hopefully they get something from it.
Right.
It's shocking the amount of women who have been through this type of thing. It literally is. It's a huge, huge, huge problem. And I don't know the solution other than we have to maybe change the way we're raising men, I don't know the solution because it's such a hard thing to prosecute when you really, if there's not a full rape and you don't go to the hospital and then do a rape kit, which by the way, I've heard is terribly invasive, terribly, terribly invasive, and immediately go to the police, then if you were to come forward and you don't have any physical evidence or any visible evidence, then how can they prosecute? So it's just it's really hard dilemma.
It's so disgusting to me that it's even a dilemma. I mean, I don't even have words for it because it's just, disgusting.
Oh yeah. And it happens to men too. So I
Yeah.
don't mean to say the way we're raising our men. I should probably rephrase that. The way we're raising people. Because
Yeah.
I know men that literally have been assaulted as children or as adults, and it's equally as terrible. But you would not believe the amount of women who have come forward after I shared my story, just reached out to me and said, happened to me too.
Wow. That was going to be my next question is after you shared via social media and then being a chapter in the book, which I would love for you to share the title of, I can't remember what the title of the book is. What was that experience like the aftermath of sharing?
It felt like a release initially, like this huge release. And also it's funny because, social media. And if I log into my Facebook, I'm friends with a lot of people from my hometown.
Right.
And so I could tell that my story, like I told my story on Instagram, on like a video, in addition to writing it in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I could tell that it was starting to circulate around my hometown because all these people from there started following me on social media. And I thought, yep, it's making its way around.
Yeah.
And I'm almost wondering if part of me wanted some of the people involved to know that there was a video made. I don't know. I haven't really worked through that part yet, but and here's the thing too. Here's the worst. Not the worst part, but I cannot be 100% sure who the men were because I believed I was given a drug of some sort in my drink is what I think happened. Because I have never been that sick. I have never been unable to move my body. There are just things, and my therapist agrees. So I wasn't, when I first came to, while they were still in the room, I could make out the figures, and it was dark in there too, but I couldn't 100% see facial features. I saw body figures, and I saw the way a certain hat was tilted, which makes me about 95%. That, in addition to all of the other factors, makes me about 95% sure of who I think it was. But I really don't know 100%. I really don't. I think it was a planned thing. I think someone slipped something in my drink. They watched me being taken upstairs. I mean, they knew I was upstairs. So there's a lot of that I worked through. I was carrying a lot of anger towards my abusers, and if that's what you call them, I don't know what you call them. And I'm working through that. I wish I could find some way to like find forgiveness, but it's because I think that's the only that would just give me so much relief. But I feel like as long as and I know this is wrong, but as long as I'm remembering it, as long as I'm telling the story, I'm still somehow holding them accountable in my head,
Right. Yeah.
I don't want to let it be forgotten because it was so terrible.
Right.
But then again, it's like, who am I punishing here? I don't know. It's crazy.
It's a lot. And I don't know if there's like a right or wrong answer to that either. It's how can you even know what is it shouldn't even be a situation in the beginning. And then, so how are you supposed to have an answer for what's the best way to handle it? So being somebody who can look back at your situation and your experience, and like you said, as you were telling the story, I noticed this was a mistake or that was a mistake, or, kind of hindsight, right?
Mm-hmm.
What advice could you give? I guess this is kind of like a two-part question. Advice to somebody who's gone through a similar experience as you, but also like mistakes to avoid. I don't know how I want to ask this question, but I feel like there's takeaways here.
Yeah, I think the takeaways in terms of, in retrospect, if I could go back, number one, I would have paid much closer attention to what I was drinking and who was giving me the drink. I think there's this idea that the date rape drug or the drugs that people slip into other people's drinks, that never really happens. There's this idea like, that doesn't happen. You were just really drunk. But it happens. It happens more than we would like to admit. And so I think I would be extra careful with what I was drinking and watching people prepare my drink. And then, I would say I would have left with my girlfriends, but at the same time, I don't think that should have to be a thing. Like, why can't I hang out with guy friends, But, so, I think that it's just being more aware, unfortunately, and it's part of being a female. When you go out, you have to look out for yourself. And I didn't realize that I needed to the extent that I needed to.
Yeah.
And then in terms of someone else who's been through this or worse, I wish I had words of wisdom other than therapy has really helped me. So, in my experience, it's not you go to therapy a couple of times and you're healed. That's not how it works. You go and you start working through it. And therapy for me got harder before it got easier.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some days I go every other Friday now. I was going every Friday and now I'm every other Friday. There are some days I go and I tell her, I don't want to deal with the sexual assault today. Like, I don't want to talk about it today. I can't do it today. So then we focus on other things like my panic attacks and getting to the root of those. And she luckily specializes in both people who have like panic disorder and people who have been victims of sexual assault. So it's perfect for me. And so there are some days I really I'm not up to it, or there are some days I'm just really in a good mood and I'm just like vibing and I don't want to ruin that. And so I'll just tell her I can't talk about it today. Yeah. But then I know I have to eventually keep tackling it,
Right. Well, and I think that's great that you have awareness of what you need to work on, but also boundaries for yourself. I think that's an important balance.
Mm-hmm.
To be aware of like, I'm in a good flow today. I'm not going to just, like, this is not something I can have the bandwidth for today or whatever the case is. So I think that's really important. And again, I appreciate you so much. And I appreciate your vulnerability and always your authenticity. I know that your story and sharing your story will and has helped other people.
For saying that. Thank you.
Yeah. And I do want to end this on a lighter note.
Yes, let's.
Not that this is like, I don't want to take attention away from the importance of your story.
No, I know.
But let's end it on a slightly
let's raise it up a little.
Yeah.
Raise up the energy a little.
Yeah. So what is next
for
Stevie Jones and her business? What's happening next? What's the new?
Well, great question. I am actually running a group business coaching program myself later this year. I know, I'm so excited. It's been something that since I've started my business, like I said, I've been involved in coaching programs, and I grew up being coached in one way or the other through sports. Like I did gymnastics and I played volleyball and softball and all the things. And I don't know, I really have found so much value in it. And I kind of knew early on, I'd love to be in this position one day to be able to impact people in this way. And I thought, but I can't justify, how am I going to coach people if I haven't built a successful business myself? Well, now that I'm there, I feel ethically aligned to be able to offer something like this. And so I am opening the program up later this year in the fall, and I'm really excited about it. I feel like it's going to be incredible. And it's for people who are, they want to get to the 6-figure profit mark. And then you can obviously keep going up. But, if you're at that point in your business, I'm trying to price it to where someone in that stage feels comfortable investing in the program.
Yeah.
It's an 8-week program. And so I'm calling it Path to Profit because I don't know, it just kind of rolls off the tongue. Yeah. But so that's really exciting. And then I'm booked out with my one-on-one clients, which is an amazing feeling to have. But I do have a 3-day program that I run that I believe in wholeheartedly, that basically helps you get up and running on QuickBooks for your business and, building out, understanding taxes and building out your financial forecast and all of that. So I run that quarterly and I love that program. And I'm just planning to keep doing more of that and keep exploring the spiritual side of running a business too, because I think it's so fascinating.
Yeah, I love all of this. You are so awesome. And I want everyone to know how awesome you are. So where can our listeners find you, follow you, connect with you?
Yes, I would love connecting. So, if anyone, wants to reach out to me about what I've talked about, I'm on Instagram at Balanced by Stevie. And you can also email me, Stevie at Balanced by Stevie. And I have a website, balancedbystevie.com.
Love it.
That's where you can find me. I hang out on Instagram a lot.
I genuinely, I just want to end this by saying, and I know I've said it throughout the podcast, but I genuinely have so much love and respect for you. I feel so great. I feel like I could start crying. I feel so grateful that we were able to connect, in a professional sense, in a personal sense. Through you, I've connected with other people that have been, it's been so awesome connecting with you and getting to work with you. And I'm really, really excited and honored and proud to have you on the podcast.
Paige, that is so freaking sweet. I've not been on a podcast that has said where they've said something that sweet. I feel exactly the same way. I think you're amazing. I think you have the best heart, and I'm so happy that we connected. And I'm just, we're going to just keep hanging out because I love this friendship that we've built.
I know it's amazing. Oh, well, I'm like freezing up over here. Okay. Well, that being said, I'll wrap this up. Thank you so much for being here, Stevie. I will put your website and your handle in the show notes so people can find you, and maybe we'll have an episode 2. Who knows?
Who knows? Absolutely.
Thanks, Stevie. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Move More, Worry Less. If you love this episode, please subscribe, share, rate, or review us to help us grow our mission. If you don't already, follow us on social at 13fit Apparel and visit our website at www.13fitapparel.com. Thanks for listening.